Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more. No 26. I can't speak anything right. Let's go again. We are here talking about 25 to 26 state governments and officials. Blah. This was meant to be Monday's video. I'm so far behind on everything. Today we are looking at the state of Michigan. So yeah. It is in the Midwest. That glove looking, mitten looking state. Right amongst the Great Lakes. It's also known as the Wolverine State, which is why its college is known as the Michigan Wolverines. Capital is actually Lansing, even though the largest city is Detroit. So it's one of these that are, yeah, it has a much larger city in it, but that's not its capital. Now, peninsular state, Great Lakes region, shares water and land boundaries with Minnesota to the northwest, Wisconsin to the west, Indiana and Illinois to the southwest, Ohio to the southeast, and the Canadian province of Ontario to the east, northeast, and south. Has a population of 10.14 million people and an area of 96,716 square miles, or 250,490 kilometers square. It is the 10th largest state by population, so fairly well populated, but it is the 11th largest by area and the largest by total area east of the Mississippi River. So your largest state east of the Mississippi. Because remember, once you get past the Mississippi, you got all these big block states. So yeah, I can see that. Other important metropolitan areas: Grand Rapids, Michigan; Flint, Michigan, just outside of Detroit; Ann Arbor, where the University of Michigan is; Kalamazoo, Michigan; Tri-Cities, Michigan; Saginaw, Midland, and Bay City combined; and Muskegon, Michigan. So yeah, it is also one of the few states that are below but also above the neighbor of Canada to the north. It's below because Canada, of course, sits on top, but there's this dip that comes all the way down, and yeah, it sits above that. So it's got that kind of interesting bit about it. Anyway, let's talk about Constitution. It has the Constitution it currently sits with apparently was the one it created in 1862 and passed in, 1962 and passed in 1963, taking effect the first day of 64. So it's had a few constitutions. There have been 4 approved by the people of Michigan. First was in 1835 when it was becoming a state in the Union, one of the U.S. Then we had constitutions in 1850 and 1908, so roughly 60 years apart. And finally, in 1963, your current Constitution. That makes up the laws of Michigan. Now, with that, let's look into. Thought I had a government page. Yeah, government of Michigan. I don't know why I got legislature first. Okay, government of Michigan. It has a Republican form of government with 3 branches of government. Don't think Republican as in it's the party. That's not what we're talking about. The use of Republican and Democrat as parties have been bastardized. Anyway, executive branch, which is your governor and the other independent agencies and other elected constitutional officers. The legislative branch, your legislature consisting of the state Senate and House, and your judicial branch consisting of 1 court of justice. There are direct initiatives, referendums, recall, and ratifications for the people to directly vote upon. Executive branch. You have your governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and attorney general. They have term limits of 2 terms, so they can serve 2 consecutively. I'm assuming they're going to be the terms be 4 years in length, but I'm not seeing exactly. Oh, goodness. Since 1966, right around the time of the new the most recent Constitution, the governor and a lieutenant governor are on the same ticket. Some states do this, other states do not. Lieutenant governor is the president of the Michigan Senate, so very similar to the U.S. vice president and how they are tie-breaking vote in the Senate. Governor has power to veto, can appoint, reorganize executive government, budget proposal. 2 other elected constitutional officers, Secretary of State and Attorney General. So they got 4-year terms. I would assume that's the way the governor and lieutenant governor work as well. With that, let's dig in over here. They should have our governor, Gretchen Whitmer. the Lieutenant Governor, Garland Gilchrist II, your Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, your Attorney General, Dana Nessel. Now, the departments you have that are the permanent agencies or commissions, except universities to be assigned under or to one of a maximum of 20 principal departments. Kind of like your cabinet. It is more or less what it is. Your Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. We looked at the head of the Attorney General's office, the Attorney General themselves, Department of Civil Rights, Department of Corrections, Department of Education, Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. Because remember, they're surrounded by the Great Lakes for the most part. Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Insurance and Financial Services, Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, Department of Natural Resources, Department of State Police, Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement and Potential, Department of Technology, Management and Budget, Department of Transportation, Department of Treasury. But yeah, Type 1 agencies are under the administration of the agency but operate independently of the principal department, the main departments themselves, in carrying out its function, and in most cases created by Type 1 transfer. Regulations are published in the Michigan Register and codified in the Michigan Administrative Code. You also have under the State Board of Election a statewide elected board that heads the Michigan Department of Education, overseeing education except for the state universities. The state universities are immune from control by the legislature. Many aspects of the executive branch and cities, only the board members of the University of Michigan, Michigan State University, and Wayne State University are chosen in general elections. Let's see, medical and recreational cannabis is regulated by the Michigan Cannabis Regulatory Agency, formerly called the Marijuana Regulatory Agency. So they do have apparently both, but they keep them well regulated. So yeah, with that, let's go up to the legislative branch. Upper house, lower house. The Michigan legislature meets in the Michigan State Capitol, Lansing, as we've talked about. Michigan is one of 10 states to have a full-time legislature. Yeah, if you remember some of the other states we have talked about, they only meet for a certain period of time out of the year. Michigan's full-time legislature, that's their job, literally. Some of these others in other states are considered part-time. That's not the case with Michigan, so yeah. Um, there is an independent redistricting commission that draws up legislative and congressional districts after each census. The 13 non office holding members, consisting of 5 independent members, 4 self declared Democrats, and 4 self declared Republicans, would be selected randomly by the Secretary of State from submitted applications. So we get a little bit of a peek there. With that, let's dig over into this page of the legislature. Term limits, 12 years combined. So it's a combination of House and Senate that you can only serve 12 years. That's interesting. I like that. I kind of like that. They have 38 senators right now with a makeup of 19 Democrat, 18 Republican, pretty split down the middle. Although I think you're more of an independent that caucuses with one side or the other. I'm not sure. I haven't counted you up, but yeah. Your House of Representatives is 110 individuals with 58 Republicans and 52 Democrats being your makeup. Okay, Senate, you get 4-year terms, House 2-year terms. So, let's say you serve two terms in the Senate, that's 8 years. 2 terms in the House, that's 4, that's 12 altogether, like I said. So that's kind of how they serve. Your president of the Senate is your lieutenant governor, Garland Gilchrist. Your president pro tempore of the Senate is Jeremy Moss. And Speaker of the House, Matt Hall. So it's a pretty even distribution. I'm not always for even distributions, but I truly like things to represent the people. I wish there was more than 2 damn parties in this nation. Technically they are, but they don't get any traction because the game's been rigged against them. But anyway, yeah. It's been a look at our legislature for Michigan. Finally, let's look at the judicial branch. Michigan Supreme Court, Michigan Court of Appeals, circuit courts, district courts, and 2 primary trial courts. The Supreme Court administers to all the courts, has 7 members who are elected on nonpartisan ballots for staggered 8-year terms, while state appellate court judges are elected to terms of 6 years and vacancies are filled by an appointment by the governor. The circuit court and district court judges are elected to terms of 6 years. So, let's start digging into our judiciary for Michigan. Oh yeah, we want to look at the list of governors. I forgot to do all that. I was going along without paying attention. List of governors. Of course, we talked about Gretchen Whitmer as your current. Your original governor was William Hull. This is when Michigan was still a territory. Then we have Lewis Cass, George Bryan Porter, Stevens T. Mason, and John S. Horner. Interesting. He's got the tintype or early photographic technology for his image. That's pretty interesting. Or it's just a really good painting. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. Appointed by Jefferson. Kept by Madison. Madison appointed. Monroe kept. Quincy Adams kept. Appointed by Andrew Jackson. And then the last two, Territorial Secretary acting. So not really so much appointed. Let's look at the governor as a state. Then you have Stevens T. Mason. That's the same guy who had that photograph, is it? 1811 to 1843. Yeah, it's the same guy, apparently. Interesting. Or is supposed to be, so. William Woodbridge is next. James Wright Gordon. John S. Berry. Alpheus Felch. William L. Greenlee. Epaphroditus Ransom. John S. Berry, I think, yep, second time. Robert McClelland and Andrew Parsons. Now look at your early governors of the state. First as a territory, then a actual state. Now, can we look at the judiciary? As we've discussed, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, Circuit, District. Then your two trial courts are your probate, municipal courts. With this, let's take a look. The Michigan Supreme Court. Supposed to be semi-partisan election. Remember, they are to be elected by the people. 8-year terms, staggered, so you don't re-elect them all at the same time. 7 positions. Your current Chief Justice of the Michigan Supreme Court, Megan Kavanaugh. You're with Associate Justices Brian K. Zara, Richard H. Bernstein, Elizabeth M. Welch, Kyra Harris Bowden, Kimberly Thomas, and Noah Hood. It's your current Supreme Court members for Michigan. I didn't see anything about putting retired justices up there like sometimes they do in other states as a semi-retired situation, so interesting. But yeah, Michigan Supreme Court. Then you have your Michigan Court of Appeals, the Intermediate Appellate Court. Apparently it's in 4 districts: Detroit, Troy, Grand Rapids, and Lansing. They serve 6-year terms instead of 8. They're the next to highest court because they appeal to the Supreme Court. But yeah, originally had only 9 judges, but the number was steadily increased. And as of 93, they had 28. 2012, Rick Snyder signed into a law legislation which provided for the transition of each of the court's 4 election districts to 6 judges. So 24 altogether. 6 per. But yeah. Total it has 25, so it probably must be 4 per and then a chief justice or whatever. I may be talking out my ass on that. Anyway, cases are heard by panels of 3 judges. We're talking about specific cases. So vacancies. Okay. All the judges are elected in districts. They sit as one statewide court. So yeah, panels of 3 judges is what they do sit in. Okay. You have your 4 big districts for it. Your current judges, which is going to be a long list, so I won't read through all of them because it's 4 per district, 25 altogether. Yeah, a lot of people to go through. But the current Chief Justice, Michael F. Godola, for the Court of Appeals. But yeah, that's a look at the Court of Appeals. Sorry, 6 to 7, because there's only 4 districts. 4 times 6, 24. Sometimes you can have 7. So it varies back and forth a little bit, but around 24. Your Michigan Circuit Courts. They are the trial courts with the broadest power. Handle all felony criminal cases that could result in confinement to prison. Also deal with civil cases for claims in excess of $25,000. 57 circuit courts in the state, and judges are elected to 6-year terms. In Michigan, circuit courts are divided into 2 divisions, general division and family division. So yeah, there's a look at the circuit court districts, circuits. You got the Upper Peninsula, and then the rest of the state here, the glove. So yeah. "57 districts, 83 counties," so some circuit courts cover several counties. To be eligible to be seated, the person must be a qualified elector, a resident of the judicial circuit, and a member of the Michigan Bar of Good Standing and under the age of 70. And then they list the circuits for what they cover. So yeah. me say 57. And remember, it's by counties, not necessarily cities, because Wayne County encompasses a good portion of Detroit. You can see why it's got 61 judges, where some don't. They've got less. But Detroit being the big metropolitan area, they have a lot more people to deal with, so they need more judges. Oh yeah. Anyway, that's a look at the circuit courts. No, I did not want you to do that. I wanted you to grab this little bar here to slide it up, not the side of the stupid window like you tried to do to me. Michigan District Courts. This is the lower court beneath the circuit courts. Limited jurisdiction. And yeah, they were created to consolidate a lot of these limited jurisdiction courts. Apparently they had at one point traffic courts, municipal courts. Nearly all cities in the state have ceased operating a municipal court except for the 5 Grosse Points in Wayne County. Each has its own municipal court except for Grosse Pointe Woods and Grosse Pointe Shores, which operate one jointly. So remember, Wayne County's where Detroit is, so yeah. There are 103 district courts in the state, and 4 of them, Macomb County, Oakland County, Genesee County, and Saginaw County, are single court districts with judges from multiple election districts based on separate locations within the respective districts. They handle most traffic violations, civil disputes, seeking money, wages, or damages up to $25,000, landlord-tenant disputes, criminal cases in which the defendant is charged with a misdemeanor that is punishable not more than 1 year imprisonment. So your lesser issues to a degree. So yeah. And then they list where the district courts are. And remember, there's a lot of district courts. I think there were more district courts than there were counties. There's Detroit itself, Wayne County, City of Detroit. But yeah, like I said, lot. 98, and there were, I think they said there were 83 counties. So yeah. Now, let's go back to the judiciary, because they got the 2 sub courts here. Probate court, there is a probate court for every county except for the 10 counties that are part of the 5 probate court districts. And nearly all cities in the state have ceased operating municipal court. We heard that. but there are the 5 gross points in Wayne County. They have municipal courts. So yeah, that's a look at the government and officials for the state of Michigan. We'll go ahead and end this episode there. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.